Alright, so welcome to Kerbal Space Program. This is Mikhailborg, and we are going to try to fly a plane today. Yeah, sorry, even though we've got everybody standing here on the moon, today we are just going to try to fly a plane, which in Kerbal Space Program is sometimes actually a little harder. I've built a few planes in here, flew them around. They don't look, some of them look pretty cool. You can see here our spaceplane hangar and the vehicle assembly building and the tracking station and the launch pad and my flag sitting there in the front. Cute little flag. But yes, here is the airplane construction hangar thing. So now we're going to load the right plane, which is this. Yes, this is the Victor-04. This is the fourth version of the Victor plane that I've built. It is intended very much to look like a certain plane, an aerospace plane from a popular anime. At least I really like it. And you can see right now it's got two underslung engines, vaguely like the F-14 or F-15, and a tail pod. And yeah, if you figured out that this is basically supposed to be a Macross Valkyrie or a Robotech Veritech, whichever you want to go with, no judgment here, then you were exactly right. And this is very interesting. You can see here, this does not fly in space, unlike the Valkyrie. It has to fly in air. You can see it's just plain jet engines, not rocket engines. Kerbal Space Program doesn't have any engines that can do both jobs. And they also don't have any engines that seem to have the near infinite fuel that a Veritech has. So you've got to enable some cheats for that, and we're not doing that today. Also, it doesn't transform. So let's go ahead and go to the runway. Yeah, the Kerbal Space Program is not made for mecha, and so it doesn't have all the hinges and rotators and everything you really want to try to build a mech. There are some mods which might do that, but I don't think that they are really going to support the necessary structure. Things going to come apart if you try to fly it. So we're on the runway. You saw we just loaded the physics engine. The plane has settled on the runway. Always seems to want to roll slowly forward when we do this. Once the physics engine is loaded, I'm not entirely sure why. But I think it looks pretty. And oh yes, we've got the cockpit. This is not a cockpit which comes with the initial set of parts for Kerbal Space Program. This is a fancy cockpit which comes with a mod. You see it's got some little computer screens there to go with the other instruments. All sorts of little switches that look cool and do nothing. Yeah, I mean, the mod basically gave me a couple pieces to make it look prettier. You can build pretty much the same plane without the mod. Here's the rear seat cockpit. This is obviously the trainer version. We've got the sticky note, do not roll this thing counterclockwise. Okay, we can do that. We can remember that. Let's see. So yeah, there's the spaceplane hangar over there where we built this. Another sticky note, replace before flight. Well, I guess it's too late now there, guys. You're going up either way. Yeah, so it's a really cool cockpit. But anyway, so let's get this thing in the air. Cranking up the engines. And you can actually crank them up before you start them, which doesn't really make any difference, but it's kind of fun. So we are rolling on the runway. I like to try to get it up to about 100 meters per second before I try to get it into the air. And you see where those landing gear are. I actually can't pull back on the stick too hard, otherwise the back of my engines will hit the runway and they'll break off, and that will be about it for the plane. I discovered you have to put the landing gear that far forward because that's about where the center of mass of the plane is, and otherwise it just doesn't want to lift off the runway. It just keeps rolling forward. But we are in the air. Our little Valkyrie, Veritech, Victor, whatever you want to call it, is in the air. Genadrin, Kermen, and Bill and Kermen look very pleased. Actually, they don't look pleased at all. They look scared to death. As well they should, because This thing is unstable as all get out. You see, I cannot keep it flying level. It's just nose up, nose down, bank left, bank right. I've got a stabilizer program in here, but I can't really use it until I've got the thing pointed in the direction I want it to point, which it doesn't want to do. And now, basically, once it's nose down like this, you're not going to be able to recover it. So I actually equipped this with a feature which is not in the anime, and that is a pair of parachutes. Unfortunately, it was tumbling too fast, and one of the parachutes just ripped off that section of the body. But that's okay, you know, the other parachute held. There's actually a feature which I can eject the engines, which actually is not an intended feature. I kind of just did that because of the way I wanted to mount the engines. But now all that dangerous material is away from the plane. If the both parachutes had functioned properly, they're actually pretty much at the correct center of mass, so it would actually be floating straight down, nice and level, and it would land nice and level in the water, and it would just kind of float there like a big, expensive military industrial raft. And as it is, well, it'll pretty much still float. It just won't look quite as pretty doing so. And so we're drifting down. You can see all those other dots are wreckage of various and sundry other attempts. This is, as I pointed out, the 4th version of this plane, and I've had other planes, which is like the 3rd version of them, and well, nobody goes out and cleans up the wreckage. So it's there as a reminder of various and sundry Kermens who have given their all for you. And there we go. It's a nice soft landing, at least, because, yep, I had a feeling this was going to happen. And to be honest, it's really hard to land a plane in Kerbal Space Program, even when it's working properly. I have an incredible amount of respect for people who land planes every day, because I suck at it. And there's one of my little Kermens right there, and he's not going to wait for the recovery ship. I think he plans to swim to shore. And oddly enough, I can't seem to take control of him like I should be able to when they leave the ship. Right-clicking on him just gives me how much fuel is in his jetpack, which his jetpack is not especially useless here on Earth. Not especially useful, that is. And I can't get control back in the plane, so I can't let the other guy out and see if maybe he could get us there. So I guess the Kermen just wants to hang around on the outside. Maybe sitting in the seat was making him seasick. And that's about it. That was a 30-second flight. That was awesome. Maybe 35, depending on how you measure it. 6.9 Gs at one point. Thank goodness my Kermens are nice and solid. Back to the spaceplane hangar, and we'll try to figure out why this thing is so gosh darn unstable. The center of mass and center of lift and center of thrust are all pretty much where they need to be, so I'm going to be hitting some forums and trying to figure out what the big deal is. But at least it looks pretty. I'm kind of proud of that. It's about as close as you're going to get to a Valkyrie in Kerbal Space Program. So, yep, this is Mikhail Borg of Borg Space Interplanetary, and I really appreciate you watching. Have a good day.